You're dressed like you're ready to run for office today. You want any ballots today? You're looking dapper today, my man.
No, I just wanted to impress my 9-year-old. So
well, you're impressing Max. That works. Can you just tell us what exactly is democratic socialism? It's a term I feel like a lot of people don't really know what this is. What is it in your words?
Yeah, well, I mean, like a lot of political labels these days, it sort of it means a lot of different things to many different people. But I think what really holds the term together is a bit of a, sort of an inherent skepticism toward capitalism. And so a lot of democratic socialists will say that one of their objectives is to transfer power from corporations to working people. And so that's one of the things that really unifies, those who would apply the label to themselves.
What would you say are some of the primary differences between like democratic socialism and just plain old being Democrat, just regular old, democracy, democratic nature of the political party?
Yeah, so I think a democratic socialist would have a higher tolerance for, government intervention. And so, things like city-owned grocery stores or healthcare has been in the news a lot recently. And so, where a traditional or standard Democrat might be excited about, something like like Obamacare, right? A Democratic socialist would want the government to serve as like an insurance company, and so they might endorse something like Medicare for all, where actually it is the government that's acting like an insurance company. And so, that's I think one of the bigger differences between the two.
Yeah, to kind of piggyback off that question, what's the difference between democratic socialism and then just socialism? Because I think like you see Zoran in New York, and his opponent Andrew Cuomo has painted him as a socialist, and he is very quick to say, I'm not a socialist, I'm a democratic socialist. What's the difference between those two things?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Socialism could be democratic, could be authoritarian, right? But it's sort of calling for public ownership of the means of production, and so. So democratic socialism would say you could have a system that leans in that direction, but you want it to be controlled by the people, right? And they would say the working people, those who are actually making the goods. And so I think, within the context of American politics, socialism is a little bit of a dirty word, right? And so that might be why you see, folks sort of, walking it back a little bit. But what's interesting is that I think, although some continue to walk it back, others are really starting to embrace it. And that's why, we may hear a lot about this in the coming weeks.
Yeah, and Andy, it feels like it's having kind of a moment, especially lately, just over the last couple of election cycles in general. It feels like the kind of hype around it has been building up a little bit more and is being paid attention to and taken more seriously. What do you think is kind of factoring into democratic socialism having a moment right now? And do you think it's a trend or a sign of things to come?
Well, that's a big question there. Get my crystal ball out. I think a lot of it has to do with Bernie Sanders' campaigns for president in 2016 and 2020. I mean, he really embraced the term. He did not shy away from it. And I think it's really interesting that so many of those who are embracing the term are not of his generation, right? It's sort of and so what we're seeing, I think, a little bit is it's something of a stand-in for some of these generational debates within the Democratic Party, right? So young folks who are maybe dissatisfied with the older leaders of the party, who might want a more confrontational stance with the Trump administration or Republican officials, are sort of embracing this term as sort of a catch-all for that kind of stance there.
You mentioned city-owned grocery stores before. This is something that has sparked a lot of news and headlines around Zoran. If Senator Fateh were to win tonight, I mean, could this be the end of Cub Foods and Whole Foods in the city of Minneapolis? I mean, there's a lot of concerns out there. I know in New York that that those places would cease to exist. Is that realistic?
I mean, I think the short answer would be no. That's certainly not in the short term. Zoran Mamdani's campaign has mentioned, fare-free buses and city-owned grocery stores. And what's interesting, I think, about the Minneapolis campaign is it's been much less about some of those ideas associated with democratic socialism and more just about, trying to turn it into a referendum on the incumbent mayor. And so I think, it's very interesting to sort of compare and contrast the Minneapolis campaign from the New York campaign, because the Minneapolis campaign is sort of taken on a different tone, I think.
Yeah. No.
Regardless of what happens in Minneapolis or in New York, obviously these Democratic Socialist politicians have been getting a lot of attention. They've been creating a lot of buzz. Do you expect this to be something that politicians start to embrace a little bit more? You mentioned it. It has been kind of a dirty word, kind of a, hey, whoa, I'm not with them for such a long time. But do you expect more politicians to kind of embrace Democratic Socialism here in the near future in light of these kind of success stories here in Minneapolis and New York?
Well, I think, and it's a cop-out answer, but I do think, time will tell a little bit. I think that the term and sort of, this sort of part of the Democratic Party is much more popular in urban areas than in other parts of, of New York or Minnesota. And so I think one of the debates the Democratic Party is going to have is whether this term actually has enough appeal to sort of rebuild. And so, as we look at election results tonight, I think, if Democrats were to win gubernatorial races in New Jersey and Virginia, those candidates are, they would shy away from the label. And so I think there will be something. Again, we have to see how things turn out, but there might be something of a reckoning within the Democratic Party about what the best path forward is. And so you may see a lot of debate among Democrats about what to do.
I know another pillar of democratic socialism is taxation, higher taxes, especially on those on the wealthier side of the bracket. If Fate were to win tonight, do you think in theory some of the wealthier residents of the city of Minneapolis could potentially look elsewhere to avoid paying those higher tax rates that are sort of one of the pillars of his campaign promises?
Yeah, it is possible. I think higher taxes, a higher minimum wage would be on the table. And again, sort of depending on how the city council races turn out, we could have a strong majority of the council in favor of things like that. And so I'm not an economist, but one thing economists will tell you is that people may vote with their feet. And not just individuals, but also businesses may think about the cost of
What do you
living.
mean by vote with their feet?
Oh, sorry. It's exactly what you said, right? Move to a suburb or move to another location where the sort of the bucket of taxes and government programs is more to your liking, right?
What are some kind of, common criticisms of democratic socialism, both from within the party and I guess from conservatives as well?
Yeah, I think you've hit on one already, which is this realistic? Is this something that really could be implemented? And, I think that even Saturday Night Live sort of poked some fun at that possibility, the other night. And I think from the Republican side of things, there is sort of this broader philosophical question of whether government should be that involved in a lot of these things, or whether it would be more efficient or better for the market to take care of it. So it's really interesting. I think both Republicans and Democrats are sort of debating ways to be more populist and have economic appeal to the working class. But they're, as with so much of American politics these days, going about it in very different ways.
Are you surprised to see, given the political climate here in Minneapolis, are you surprised to see Omar Fateh getting this much? I mean, basically now the chief competitor to the incumbent mayor. Is that something that's surprising to you?
No, I think that democratic socialism has these, it's very appealing. It's done well in a lot of urban areas. In Duluth and St. Paul and New York City, and so. Minneapolis it's a fairly liberal population, and so if it's fertile ground for these sorts of appeals in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Andy, you've broke it down beautifully for us, eloquently, in fact. But if people want to learn more about this kind of stuff, where could they learn more?
Well, I think, as with anything, being an informed citizen means going to the candidates' websites. And so you can learn a lot by looking at, Zohran Mamdani's website or Omar Fateh's website. I think also there are some examples just looking abroad. I think, countries use different labels, but Bernie Sanders has pointed to Denmark as an example of what he would consider to be a implemented a system that adheres to some, democratic socialist principles. And so, just by expanding your frame of reference and doing a little web searching, you can break it down for yourselves, I think.
Professor, I'm not asking who you voted for. I'm just asking for a prediction. How do you think that this Minneapolis race is going to shake out tonight? Objectively, no bias from your own self. Just how do you think this is going to shake out?
I think you put it well. My wife asked me the same question, and I said I just expect a very close election. And maybe would have been surprising a few months ago, but again, I think given just the strong, sort of the liberal bent of Minneapolis and Senator Fateh's organizational strength, I think both he and Mayor Fry will sort of be anxiously looking for the result of what I think will be a close election.
Wow.
Yeah.
Adam's not going to ask. I'm asking. Who you voted for? I'm kidding.
Somebody's going to take the bait one.
Yeah, they are going to. I think somebody's going to accidentally say it one of these days. We're going to have to bleep it out. Or something.
Somebody's definitely going to say it.